the heart of the kingdom, the golden light of dawn seeped through the tall windows of the throne hall. But the opulence of the space could not mask the chill that had settled in the grand hall. King Ryan sat heavily on his throne, fully armored, his face etched with the weariness of sleepless nights. His eyes, usually sharp and keen, were heavy with fatigue. The scent of betrayal hung in the air, as heavy as the ornate gold chainmail that adorned him. "The air smells of betrayal," the king muttered, more to himself than to the intruder. "Every smile hides a dagger." As if summoned by his words, a shadow detached itself from the far end of the hall. It moved with a practiced grace towards the foot of the throne, where it dropped to its knees. "My king," boomed a deep voice, "the council stirs restlessly. Some call for your removal." It was Commander Darius, the most trusted of the king's men, his voice echoing the unease that had become a constant companion in the castle. The king's response was a sharp slam of his fist on the arm of his throne, rattling the golden circlet perched atop his head. "Let them try," he snarled, his voice raw with exhaustion and frustration. "I'll remind them why kings wear crowns and wolves wear chains." He gestured with a sweep of his hand towards the dungeons that yawned beneath the throne room. "See that they get a front row seat. Let them watch how a king deals with wolves in his own den." Darius inclined his head in understanding, though a flicker of worry crossed his features before he melted back into the shadows, leaving the king alone once more with his thoughts and the growing unease that coiled in his gut like a venomous snake. But even as Ryan stood in his gilded cage, the gears of fate were turning in the hidden chambers of the castle. In the dimly lit council chamber, away from the prying eyes of the king, a clandestine meeting was underway. Maps spread across the table, each wrinkle and fold hinting at the secrets they concealed. The faces around the table, etched with years of political maneuvering, were illuminated by the soft glow of oil lamps, casting long shadows that danced in the gloom. "If Laurent marches south," rasped Lord Vaynor, his voice like the rustling of dry leaves, "and the princess allies with the east, the king's reign will crumble." His gaze swept over the assembly, each lord and lady a potential pawn in the Game of Thrones. "We have the chance to end this madness, to cleanse the kingdom of Ryan's bloodline." A murmur of agreement rippled around the chamber, but it was cut short by the sharp bark of Advisor Callus, a man whose ambition was as evident as the lines of power etched on his face. "Then our task is simple," he stated, his voice cutting through the room like a honed blade. "We survive by choosing the winning side before the storm breaks." A heated argument erupted, voices rising in the close confines of the chamber. Accusations flew like daggers, the weight of each word hanging heavy in the air. Some argued for caution, for patience to watch how the pieces fell before making a move. Others, emboldened by Callus's words, pushed for swift action, for seizing the opportunity presented by Laurent's rebellion. In the midst of the maelstrom, Lord Alara, her face pale and drawn, raised a hand for silence. "Enough," she commanded, her voice surprisingly firm. "We all seek the same outcome, the betterment of this kingdom, but squabbling like pups will only benefit the wolves at our gates." She swept her gaze over the assembled counselors, her eyes sharp and assessing. "We have a king who has turned his back on us, an heir who flees in terror, and a kingdom teetering on the edge of ruin. If we are to survive, we must unite. We need a leader, not more infighting." Her words, laced with quiet authority, seemed to hang in the air, momentarily silencing the dissent. As the council deliberated, unaware that their every move was being watched, a lone cloaked figure stood silhouetted against the backdrop of the moon and clouds. In the unforgiving northern wilderness, night had fallen, shrouding the snow-covered landscape in a blanket of darkness. Fires crackled merrily in the small encampment, casting dancing shadows on the weathered faces of the soldiers gathered around them. The air, crisp and cold, was filled with the scent of wood smoke and roasting meat, offering a brief respite from the harsh realities of their lives. Amongst them sat Laurent, his armor discarded, leaning heavily on his shield. His face, usually so vibrant, was grim, his eyes distant as if peering into the heart of the storm that raged within him. "Word from the south," rasped a voice beside him, pulling Laurent from his thoughts. It was his captain, his features etched with the weariness of a long journey. "The road is clear." The ambush worked perfectly. A tired smile touched Laurent's lips. "So the fat merchant and his guards are no more. They tried to stop us," the captain continued, handing Laurent a sealed scroll, "but they underestimated the reach of the frost fangs." Laurent broke the seal, his eyes scanning the message within. A grim smile touched his lips. "Perfect timing," he murmured, more to himself than the captain. "And what of the king's forces?" the captain asked, ever vigilant. "Will they pursue us?" Laurent rose, his movements stiff from both battle and disuse. "No," he stated, his voice echoing the finality of a winter night. "Ryan sits comfortably in his gilded cage, dreaming of victories that will never come." He looked out at the fires, his eyes gleaming with a dangerous light. "By dawn, we march for the capital. The throne must be cleansed with fire." In the princess's chambers, the flickering light of a single candle danced across the intricate patterns adorning Princess Celine's bedroom walls. Her chamber, usually filled with the aroma of fresh flowers, was heavy with the scent of old decay, mirroring the turmoil brewing within her. She sat poised on the edge of her bed, her fingers tracing the embossed designs on a sealed scroll delivered earlier that day by her guard. Her eyes, usually filled with the warmth of youthful exuberance, glinted with a cold fire as she read through the message. "When he strikes from the north," she whispered, her voice echoing in the stillness of the room, "and the east from the sea, father will drown between the storms." A ghost of a smile touched her lips, her eyes gleaming with triumph. A shadow detached itself from the corner of the room, stepping into the circle of light cast by the solitary candle. The guard, his face etched with concern, approached the princess. "Shall I prepare your escape route, princess?" he asked, his voice hushed. "Your safety is of paramount importance. We can still leave, still hide in the east until this passes." Celine looked up, her gaze intense. "No," she stated, her voice ringing with newfound resolve. "I will not run. This is my home, and if I am to leave, I will do so on my own terms." She turned back to the scroll in her hands, her smile turning cruel. "I will sit on the throne he built with blood, or die trying." The guard, sensing the unyielding determination in his princess's voice, bowed his head in submission. In the castle dungeons, the flickering light of torches cast long, dancing shadows on the dank stone walls of the dungeon corridors. The air hung heavy with the mingled scents of stale waste and mildew, a testament to the despair that permeated these dark chambers. King Ryan walked slowly, his heavy steps echoing in the oppressive silence, his armor clanking softly with each movement. Beside him, Darius, his face grave, moved with a practiced ease, his footsteps silent on the worn stone stairs. The king stopped abruptly, his gaze fixed on the cell before him. Inside, a gagged noble slumped against the wall, his eyes wide with fear. "Look at them," the king spat, his voice echoing in the confined space. "Thieves, liars, traitors, no different than the council above." Darius laid a hand on the king's shoulder, his voice low and urgent. "My king, paranoia can be dangerous. These men are your enemies." "Yes, but..." Ryan whirled around, his grip tightening on Darius's arm, his eyes blazing with manic energy. "Paranoia keeps me alive," he hissed, his voice raw with barely restrained fury. "Trust is a luxury of fools. They wanted me dead, Darius. All of them. The queen, the council, even my own kin. They would tear the kingdom apart rather than see me hold the crown." He pulled away from Darius, his gaze sweeping over the huddled figures in the cells, each a testament to his paranoia, or perhaps a victim of the truth he saw around him. Silence descended once more, thick and heavy, broken only by the dripping of unseen water. The flickering torchlight played across the rough stone walls, casting menacing shapes that seemed to writhe and twist in the gloom. Ryan's shadow, elongated and distorted, loomed large on the dungeon wall, a silent specter of the troubled king he had become. And high above in the north tower, cloaked in darkness, the wind keening mournfully through the crumbling stones, the mysterious watcher stood silhouetted against the stormy sky. The faint glow of lightning illuminated the sharp angles of his face, highlighting the steely glint in his eyes. As thunder cracked overhead, shaking the very foundations of the castle, he spoke, his voice raspy yet commanding, as if accustomed to giving orders that were meant to be obeyed without question. "The storm gathers," he said, his gaze fixed on the turbulent sky. "But they forget storms do not choose their victims." With that, he turned, his dark robes billowing behind him like wings of a raven, disappearing into the shadows as the screen faded to black.